serve on the executive committee of the Women's Philanthropy Board. It is great privilege and honor to introduce Terry Lovelace.
I'm almost done.
Terry is the Chief Impact Officer and Senior Vice President for Virginia Community Capital, President of Virginia Community Capital's social enterprise focusing impact investing. Terry has over 27 years in philanthropic, mission investing in nonprofit sectors. And prior to Virginia Community Capital, Terry served as the senior management team of the Community Foundation serving Central Virginia. While there, she worked with donors and professional advisors in complex charitable giving. Terry has a law degree from the University of Richmond, an undergraduate degree from the University of Virginia. I knew that would come up. And an MBA from Virginia Commonwealth University. She is also a member of the Virginia State Bar, a past president of the Central Virginia chapter of the Financial Planning Association, a founding member of the Virginia Impact Investing Forum, and past president of the Virginia State Planning Council. On a personal note, Terry and I met about 10 years ago when she was with the Central Virginia Community Foundation working with professional advisors that had clients that wanted to give back to the community. A couple of years after that, after we first met, I was very surprised that Terry had changed jobs to become Chief Impact Officer with Virginia Community Capital. Her move affirmed for me that Terry was always striving to do more good, to do more than the great work she had been doing at the Community Foundation. It was quite evident that Terry truly did aspire to give and to lead and to make a higher impact, a bigger impact with her life's work. Over these last few years, Terry and I have stayed in touch, meeting about once a year to catch up with energizing conversations on the leading edges of philanthropy. I have come to know Terry as someone who deeply cares and is an inspiring role model for others. She's a philanthropic thought leader and a true visionary. She gives freely to others and to share and to lead and to do as much good as she possibly can. Terry is always giving of herself so that individuals, families, and communities, no matter where they are, can aspire to become better versions of themselves. Please join me in a great War Eagle welcome for Terry Lovelace.
Thank you, Greg, for those kind words. And thank you, Sid and Kim, the Carey Center, and the Women's Philanthropy Board for inviting me here today to share about this growing trend in philanthropy called social impact investing. It's a real privilege to be here today to talk about my true passion, impact investing. I'm also a big fan of the Women's Philanthropy Board and its extraordinary team. My good friend Greg, 2 years ago, gave me my first Phil's calendar. So I have some of Auburn's best looking men hanging on my office wall. Now I have to share a little bit about my NCAA brackets. I had Virginia going to the Final Four and winning the championship in redemption to losing to UMBC last year. But I also knew I was coming down here to Auburn. So I had Auburn going to the Final Four. And I really wish that both teams could have won on Saturday night. So my husband is here with me today, and he's an Alabama graduate and grew up in Birmingham. So here you have a Virginia girl married to an Alabama fan. Please have mercy on me today. Okay. I plan to share with you a bit about my personal journey, a little bit about the big umbrella of social impact investing, and then I'm going to dive down deeper into examples of how philanthropies and foundations are thinking differently about their charitable assets and how they can be invested. To understand a bit about my passion, you have to understand where I came from. 58 years old, and graduated in 1982 from UVA and law school in 85. Think back about what was going on in the 1980s. It was the heyday of corporate takeovers, mergers, and acquisitions. And companies were just acquiring each other at record numbers. I went to law school thinking I was going to open up a law clinic in rural Appalachia for the working poor. But with mounting school debt and the salaries that were being paid by law firms, I sold out and joined one of the larger law firms in the Southeast. And of course, I joined the mergers and acquisitions team. It was petty, it was power, it was greed, it was a lot of money. I'd always been a fan of business and really saw the benefit that businesses could have in creating jobs, creating economic inclusion and prosperity. But working in mergers and acquisitions, what I really saw was loss of jobs, I saw loss of community fabric, and I saw a lot of companies uprooting the community fabric that held us together. Mind you, I was not a far-left activist at all. I was a fairly conservative corporate attorney working in Richmond, Virginia, but couldn't find the right balance between heart and money to be working in this space. So I tried a job as an in-house counsel with a large international manufacturing company. Again, trying to find my niche in the business world. I even went back and got my MBA, thinking that I would find this right fit between my heart and this business acumen that I really enjoyed. Reluctantly, I couldn't find that right mix. So I joined a nonprofit organization. I started raising dollars for a small social service agency. I took a big paycheck cut to go into this world. But it was the first time that my values between money and mission were aligned. I was working for a social service agency that was working with the working poor in Richmond, Virginia, providing Head Start, quality child care services, job training for folks who had lost their job, and emergency assistance to help people pay for their electricity bills when they had lost their job. So it was really, it was my passion. It was finally, my values were aligned and I was doing something that was for a higher purpose. But here I was, a recovering attorney with an MBA, raising money in a nonprofit, small social service agency. And I was still missing that business edge. My nonprofit experience and my background legal experience ultimately led me to our $800 million community foundation in Richmond, Virginia. And there I was working with high net worth donors on their charitable giving plans. Most of you all probably know what a community foundation is, and I think we may even have representatives from some of Alabama's community foundations in the audience today. Community foundations are deeply place-based organizations, and they seek to enhance the quality of life for all the residents. And here I had the privilege of working with some of the most amazing philanthropically inclined families that were really doing some deep impact in the community. And I was helping them recommend where they should be spending those precious grant dollars in the community, researching nonprofits, giving guidance on where their dollars could maximize impact into the community. My heart was really fulfilled, but I was still missing that business innovation. At the Community Foundation, I had the privilege of working with a high net worth family who had run his own business very successfully. He had a very large donor advised fund at the Community Foundation, and he also had a private foundation. And he turned to me one day and said, "Terry, you have lots of places where I can give my money away, but you have no place for me to invest my money locally." He said, "I'm even willing to sacrifice a bit of that financial return if I knew my investments were making a difference in the community. And he was right. I did not have a place for him to invest those charitable assets locally. I could give him recommendations of where to give them away, but he had no place to invest those assets locally. So he gave me an article about impact investing and said, read it, figure it out. That's what we need here. And that was in 2008. And the light bulb went off. He was actually right. There was no place to invest locally those charitable dollars. So that really set me on a journey to mesh my love of philanthropy with my belief in business. I learned about B Corps, or benefit corporations, which are for-profit companies that use the power of business to build more inclusive and sustainable economies. B Corps are a new type of companies that use the power of business to solve social and environmental problems. They balance purpose and profit. In traditional corporations, the goal is to maximize shareholder values. The B Corps are legally required to consider the impact of others, other stakeholders, like the community, like the employees, in their decisions. Today, there are over 2,700 B Corps in the world, in 150 different industries in 64 countries. And some examples of B Corps include Ben & Jerry's, Etsy, Patagonia, Eileen Fisher, and New Belgium Brewery. This simple Venn diagram illustrates where nonprofits and for-profits overlap to create what is known as social enterprises. B Corps are a type of social enterprise. And social enterprises are organizations that apply commercial strategies to maximize improvements in human and environmental well-being. Like a company who is creating solutions for safe, quality drinking water in India. Again, this concept of mission and money coming together really resonated with me. I also learned about a new type of social enterprise called Community Development Financial Institutions. These organizations are community-based financial institutions like banks, credit unions, and loan funds that work in under-resourced and lower-income markets, making loans to people and businesses that may not be able to qualify for credit otherwise. So think of a small business who's had declining or flat revenues, and yet there's a new contract that this business can achieve if they purchased a new piece of equipment. That small business owner has gone to traditional banks and have been denied. A CDFI is the type of lending institution that would lend capital to that individual. CDFIs lend money where traditional lenders won't lend due to the perceived riskiness of those loans. CDFIs also provide financial and technical assistance to its borrowers. CDFIs were created back in the 90s as a way to get capital flowing to underserved markets. And at least 60% of a CDFI's activities need to be in low-income areas. There's about 1,100 CDFIs in the country, and 14 of them serve or lend here in Alabama. Once again, these financial institutions spoke my language, money and mission. So back to my Venn diagram here, we generally think we have two wallets. We have a charitable wallet, and we have an investment wallet. Our charitable wallet is where those dollars go to support those causes we care about. A university, arts, homelessness, food security. And we have our investment wallet where we seek to maximize the financial return of those investment dollars. If you notice, these two wallets are very separate and very distinct. What if there was a way to overlap these two wallets? What if there was a new way of thinking about our investment dollars? What if my investment dollars could be doing some good while also earning a financial return? What if those investment dollars could be deployed locally to address some community issues like affordable housing or job creation? So now my impact is not just my charitable dollars, but it's also a part of my investment dollars. So now you have more resources driving towards impact in my community. Now think about a foundation who has charitable assets. Generally, foundations give away 5% a year. The other 95% of their assets are invested in the Wall Street or in international markets. Just think the power if a portion of that 95% could be invested locally. This was putting mission and money together. So back to my professional journey. Very rarely do people leave foundation jobs. It is much easier to give away money than it is to raise money. I've been on both sides. But I was being called to this impact investment, nascent new space. So I took a leap of faith and joined a 6-year-old CDFI called Virginia Community Capital to lead its fundraising effort to attract impact investors into the institution. VCC started in 2006 with $15 million privatized money from the state of Virginia. Today, it is $370 million in assets, making lending of about $80 million a year to businesses, community development projects, energy efficiency lending. But more importantly, over the 12 years of its lending experience, it has created $1 billion of community impact because of its lending. And at VCC, I was able to create those investment opportunities that my friend had challenged me years ago to find those places where he could invest his philanthropic assets. And that gentleman was my very first investor into VCC about 5 years ago. Because I was able to find investments that meshed with his charitable purpose of creating affordable housing so that he could put investment dollars to work in his own community. I've been with VCC now for almost 7 years. And VCC's mission is to create vibrant communities with good jobs, enhance quality of life, and energize places, all through mission-aligned lending. At VCC, we also recognize an opportunity to leverage what VCC was doing with its own lending portfolio, since many foundations were beginning to enter into this space of impact investing, but they didn't have the banking experience or the infrastructure to do impact investing. So nearly 3 years ago, I had the privilege of launching a new national organization that is specifically targeted at helping foundations and philanthropists unlock their capital to invest it locally, to help their own communities prosper and thrive economically. That organization is Locus Impact Investing. And just like that donor who had challenged me years ago to find places for his assets, Locus is working with place-focused foundations around the country who want to use their assets differently and invest it locally. And Locus is a benefit corporation. Locus is both a nonprofit consulting firm and is a registered investment advisor. And we're working with foundations to tap into that 95% of endowments that can be invested locally. Move some of that money from Wall Street to Main Street. And Locust does this by we partner with foundations to explore this new space of local impact investing. We help them unlock their resources for community investment and then deploy dollars to make a difference. We do this by targeting defined community impacts and understanding the capital gaps that exist in a community. We identify investable assets, we build a pipeline for foundations, and then during the deploy stage, we help foundations source those investments, conduct due diligence and underwriting. We monitor those investments to mitigate risk and provide back office support. Locust was launched in 2017, and we've done 109 projects in 35 states so far. We work with large national foundations like the Kresge Foundation, and we work with community foundations in small areas like Galesburg, Illinois, and Waco, Texas, all with the goal of unlocking philanthropic assets for local investing and building prosperity in local communities. Social investing may be a bit new for some of you. The field is pretty new. It's only about 12 or 15 years old. And the term impact investing was just created in 2007. However, religious orders like the Catholic nuns have been doing social investing for decades. When they did negative screens of their portfolios, they didn't want to have any sin stocks like alcohol and tobacco in their pension plans. There's many names and approaches associated in this field of social impact investing. Concessionary returns, market returns. Some folks want to be impact first, finance first. There's different lenses. You can use environmental, social, and governance lenses, ESG, or you can have socially responsible investing known as SRI. According to the Global Impact Investing Network, the definition of impact investing is investing in local companies, organizations, and funds with the intention to generate measurable community benefit and a financial return. The key here is financial return and a community benefit. These are not grants. The investors expect their money back and they expect a return. Example is a grant. If you think about a grant, that's a negative 100% return. You will never get that money back. These investors expect the money back. They expect to be doing a community benefit. You can see in this chart, social investing is on the rise. This chart is from 1995 through 2018. You can see the increase in social investing over the last decade or so. And just in the last 2 years, there's been a 38% increase in social investing. That's about 25 cents of every dollar that's professionally managed in the United States cares about factors in addition to making a return. Just as significant as the growth in this field is the generational impact on social investing. You can tell from this chart here, 85% of the millennials believe that social, political, and environmental impact is important to their own investment decisions. As the next generation creates and inherits wealth, you're going to see a greater emphasis on social impact investing. This chart here gives you a good summary of the impact investing spectrum. On the far left are businesses that are purely motivated by profit. Your general businesses there. On the far right-hand side are your charities. Their source of earned income is through charitable donations. You look in the middle here, impact companies. That's really the sweet spot for impact investing. And think of an impact company could be a manufacturing company that hired recently incarcerated individuals to make their products. Impact companies are really kind of that sweet area for impact investing. Let's get a little bit more granular about place-based impact investing. Philanthropic assets that care about place. Think about community foundations, family foundations, donor advised funds. These assets are uniquely situated for impact investing. There's also a growing trend with other institutions, like universities, to use part of their endowment assets for place-based impact investing for the places around their campuses. And also healthcare systems are beginning to use some of their investment dollars for local investments, particularly for affordable housing, access to fresh foods, and wellness programs. And they're using this as a way to address social determinants of health and to fight some of the health issues before they happen. The Ford Foundation was a leader in program-related investments back in the 1960s when they put investment dollars into the urban cities of the country. Recently, Darren Walker, who's the CEO of the Ford Foundation, stated that unleashing the power of endowment is the next challenge for philanthropy. Let me give you an example of unlocking the power of the endowment from doing good to doing better. Say your community wants to address the growing problem with children and families going hungry, and they don't have enough fresh foods to eat or access to them. Option one, you can feed the families by supporting the local food pantry with charitable dollars. Worthy cause, no doubt, and really meeting a need. But are you only treating the symptoms of the bigger problem? Why are the children and families going hungry? Their salaries not high enough to afford food? Do they not have quality jobs? Is it a lack of a grocery store close by? Do they live in a food desert? Option two is to make investments that grow small businesses and create those living wage jobs for families, or financing a grocery store in a food desert. Thereby, you're tackling the root cause of why the families and children are hungry. Option two helps cure the disease. Jobs to buy the food, access to healthy food, and not just treat the symptoms of the hunger. This isn't an either-or situation. You need both types of dollars, the charitable dollars and the investment dollars. Let me share with you now a little bit about the size of the philanthropic assets that care about place. It's about $125 billion if you consider community foundations and donor advised funds. If only 1% of those assets were allocated to place-based impact investing, think about the transformational change that could take place in communities, in communities, in counties all across the country, if just a piece of those assets could be devoted to local impact investing. Think what would happen here in Lee County if some of those dollars were invested to address some of those systemic social challenges facing the community. Here's the usual areas of investment places that these types of dollars can be deployed to. And I want to give you 3 examples of local impact investing. The first example is a foundation and a CDFI partnering to support a local African-American farmer in the Northern Neck area of Virginia. The Haney farm had been in the family for decades, since after the Civil War. The farm needed a capital infusion to remain vibrant and competitive. The Jesse Ball DuPont Fund, a private foundation, cared about the Northern Neck and partnered with the CDFI to make a loan to the Haneys to stabilize their farm operations. Today, the farm is strong. 35 jobs were created or retained because of this investment, and the loan has been paid back. The second example I want to give you is a foundation and a group of donors who work together to attract a much-needed hotel to capture tourism dollars in rural Michigan County. The town and the foundation recognized that building a hotel was essential to growing the tourism industry in their region. They had no hotel, and they were losing tourism dollars by people not staying in their county. So in this case, 6 donors created a loan fund at the Berry County Community Foundation that provided long-term financing to finance a 64-room Holiday Inn Express that employed 10 people. Today, tourism is flourishing in Berry County, and the investment is on track to be repaid. And once it's repaid, those dollars can go into a new economic development project in Berry County. And finally, the third example is a community foundation that filled a critical financing gap in workforce housing project in Hutchinson, Kansas. A 10-unit affordable housing project had a gap in financing and approached the community foundation in Hutchinson to make a below-market loan to the construction project. The community foundation made that loan, which allowed the project to be successfully completed, and now 10 units of workforce housing is now available in this rural community. As many of you may know, I was very excited to learn about the affordable housing innovation going on here at Auburn University with the World Studio. And I talked to one of the students here earlier this morning, and she had actually worked on one of the homes in the World Studio. For those of you who may not know, World Studio is a student-centered design-build program here at the College of Architecture. World Studio has a collaboration with Fannie Mae to support the development of affordable, resilient, and energy-efficient homes in low-income rural counties in Hale County, Alabama. Known as the 20K Initiative, since the goal of them at $20,000 apiece. The program aspires to enable broader home ownership in underserved rural communities and address systemic issues of affordable housing. World Studio is currently exploring ways to scale this work and expand its capacity. What an innovative program to address such a critical social need. Can't you just imagine the power of this program if local investment dollars could help that program scale and grow and marry impact investments to these types of homes? It would be pretty powerful. I wish to leave with you 3 takeaways. For young people looking for your place in the workforce, know that you can find rewarding and challenging work that align with your values. You can satisfy both head and heart. For community partners desiring to create a vibrant, prosperous community, start building those networks and connections today for local impact investing down the road. And finally, for philanthropies, take a hard look at your endowment. Know what you own and see if local impact investing has a role in your own endowment. Thank you for your time today, and letting me share my passion and journey with you all.
Before we break, as an additional note, Terry will be here this afternoon in here in Alabama and how we can bring impact investing here. So we certainly encourage you all to come, pick her brain, and figure out how to do that. Thank you all for coming.